category. All right. So I wanted to reach back and make sure that I said that to you guys. So talked about co-signers. So if you have that trust with someone and they trust you as well, then maybe co-signer is one of the ways to look. You can do that with an automobile. You can do that with a personal loan as well. You can do those things with both of those. So, hey, look at it, man. I swear, to me, this 30 minutes goes really, really fast. So it has gone really fast. We're at the 15-minute break portion of the show, or right in the middle of the show. And typically, if you're new to the show, I come on, I present that topic at the middle, and then at the top of the show, and then in the middle, I have the question of the day. And the question of the day comes from you guys. It comes from the listeners. So I need you guys to contact me with your questions. I've said on previous shows that some people send me 4 or 5 questions. Some people send me 1 or 2. And here's what happens. When you send me a question, I will answer that question directly to you. We'll have some kind of dialogue, and whether you contact me on email or you get me on Twitter or wherever it is, we'll have that dialogue, and then I may utilize you as the question of the day as well. And that happens somewhere toward the middle of the show, where we do the question of the day, and toward the end of the show, which is my favorite portion of the show, is the action portion of the show, and it's called the Credit Score Kiss, and that's for Keep It Smart and Simple. So there I give you some homework, something to do that I hope will help you improve your credit scores as well. So let's go ahead and jump into the question of the day really quick. Question of the day comes from Monique. Monique is out of Atlanta, Georgia, and Monique asks, will filing bankruptcy help my credit score? So Monique, thank you very much for your question. She hit me up on email. You guys email me at 800creditscoreman@gmail.com. Again, that's 800creditscoreman@gmail.com. Hit me there. But Monique, to answer your question in a word, no. No, filing bankruptcy will not help your credit score. That's not the reason that you file bankruptcy. You don't file bankruptcy to get a better credit score. You file bankruptcy because you have some debt that you just can't handle anymore. And so in turn, that actually hurts your credit score. So when you file bankruptcy, it's going to stay on your credit report for 10 years. That's the first thing you should know. And then it's going to hurt your credit score immediately, hurt your credit score. So you'll have issues trying to get credit. And that's why I talked about reestablishing credit at the top of the show, is because of this question from Monique. Because if you have if you have a bankruptcy, it doesn't matter if it's a Chapter 7, a Chapter 11, or a Chapter 13 on your credit report, creditors is going to know that somebody loaned you some money, or gave you some items, like an automobile, or you went to that jewelry store and you didn't pay them back. So the odds of them getting paid back again are less in their mind. So they don't deem you credit worthy. So then that's why you'll have issues getting credit. So filing bankruptcy will absolutely hurt your credit. It will not help your credit score. It does the exact opposite. So thank you very much for sending that question in. So let me talk about bankruptcy a little bit since we're here. So what a lot of people do after filing bankruptcy is they avoid credit like the plague. And that's the absolute wrong move to do, because hopefully you've learned your lesson. You learned your lesson. And if you were the cause of your bankruptcy because of your own overspending or trying to keep up with the Joneses, you need to start establishing credit as soon as possible. Now, when is as soon as possible? That doesn't mean 2 months right after you file bankruptcy. First of all, it has to be discharged. So your bankruptcy has to be discharged. And I would say 6, 7, 8, 9 months after, then you need to start rebuilding your credit. Oftentimes people file bankruptcy and they think that that's going to help their credit score, and they just leave it alone, and eventually their credit score will rebound, if you will. That's not the case at all. It does not rebound on its own. There's some active things that you need to do, or you can do, to help you reach the credit goals that you were once at. So what you need to do to start rebuilding it, because you're starting all over. You're like one of the millennials that I talked about earlier that are just coming out of high school, or they're just leaving college right now. what you need to do is go ahead and try to reestablish your credit, and to do that with some of the things that I've already mentioned, some of the revolving credit options like a store card, credit card, or a secured card, and then also with some of the installment things like a personal loan, or become a co-signer for somebody on a personal loan at all. So I want to make sure that you know those are some of the things you need to do, especially if you filed bankruptcy or you're thinking about filing bankruptcy. Those are some of the things that you need to do. And before you go out and get a credit card, if you filed bankruptcy before you go out and get a credit card, you got to know thyself. Know thyself. Oftentimes, I only tweet those three words, because that's the way I say it, know thyself. So that's the way I tweet it. And that's at @creditscore_man. You have to know thyself. Do not go out and get a credit card if you haven't processed in your mind that you are not going to overspend. If you're going to overspend, you got to know thyself. If you're going to overspend, credit cards are not the way to go for you. Maybe you need to try to establish credit a different way. A secured card is probably a great way for you, a person that has gone out and they just overspent, and that's why they're in the trouble that they are in, and they had to go and file bankruptcy. So, Monique, thank you very much for adding to the discussion. You are now part of the 800 Credit Score Man Show family. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate the conversation that we had. And so let's move on, people. Let's move on to what's next. So we've talked about store cards, credit cards, secured cards, personal loans, and co-signers. So I have another thing I want to talk to you about, and this also needs some trust. I just talked about trust with a co-signer. This one absolutely needs some trust. One way for you to establish credit is to become an authorized signer on someone else's credit card. So if you can become an authorized signer on someone else's credit card, then that'll help you establish credit. So here's the example. So somebody that you know, take it, be your mom, your dad, your uncle, whoever it is, and they have good credit, or at least they have good credit on that particular card. Because with an authorized signer, you don't get the full weight of all of their credit, just the card that you're authorized signer on. So oftentimes what happens if you go to, the bank, somebody already has a credit card, all they have to do is make a phone call and they say, I'd like to add this person as an authorized signer. That person gets a credit card in their own name. They're connected to the full history of that particular credit card. So hopefully it's good. Make sure you, as the person that's asking that credit card has always been good, and then you'll get the full weight of that good credit to be placed upon your credit in itself. Now, full disclosure, I've done this myself for my son. I want to make sure that once he wanted to go out and get his first vehicle, he didn't have to pay a 14.65% interest rate like I did when I got my first vehicle. When he wanted to go do that, I wanted to make sure that his credit was established or was good enough. So I made him an authorized signer on one of my cards. I kept the card. I didn't give him the card at all. I kept the card. So that was one of my ways of making sure that he didn't go out and do anything with it that I didn't want him to do. Not that I didn't trust him. I just wanted to make sure that everything was okay. So he was an authorized signer on my card. That card has historically been really good with me. It has, a high limit as well. So if I happen to spend some money on that card, we won't go over that 30% threshold. And so he should have a good credit score, especially in 3 or 4 years when he's ready to maybe make some kind of purchase. So that was what I did to help him establish some credit. So that's what you can do with the authorized signer. You can do those kinds of things and help somebody establish credit as well. Now, typically it needs to be a relative, a close relative, a mom, a dad, a spouse, a child, something of that nature. But you can also do it otherwise as well. You just have to talk to the particular lender. Now, when you talk to your lender as well, you need to make sure that they are going to put this on that person's credit as well. If you call somebody up and say, hey, I want to add a person as authorized signer, and they don't ask you any questions about them, like what's their birth date and what's their social security number, then it's probably safe to say they're not going to add it to a credit bureau for that particular person. So authorized signer is an excellent way to do it. if you have that trust with the other person. So look, I've got one more thing for you before we get out of here and I give you the credit score kiss. So the last thing I want to talk to you about is a credit builder loan. Now there are establishments, if you will, or credit unions that are giving credit builder loans, and they are designed to do just that: help you build your credit, help you build your credit score. This is the perfect place for you to go. They have good interest rates, and here's the way that they work for you. So typically what happens, you go into a place and it works a little bit like a secured card. You get a personal loan, if you will. You get a personal loan. They don't actually give you the money in your hand, but you have a personal loan and you make monthly payments. You make monthly payments. So say you get a personal loan for $1,000 and you make payments every month for 5 months. You make $200 a month payments for 5 months. You do that, it's reported to the credit bureau, and then at the end of your 5 months, the end of your term, $1,000 is actually given to you. It's actually given to you with the interest that you paid while you were making those payments. So you have established an account, a good account, as well as these credit unions oftentimes are also giving you a credit card. Once you've made a few payments, then they're going to give you a regular credit card that you can go out and use, and you can continue to establish credit that way as well. So when you come off of a credit builder loan, go to a credit union. They may call it something different, but if you walk in and say credit builder loan and they have an option of that, like that, then you're going to be in the right place and they'll be able to help you out. So make sure you guys do that. Let me recap really quickly before I get to the kiss, and I got one more big shout out as well. So I'm going to recap. To reestablish, restore, revitalize your credit, you want to start with maybe getting a store credit card. That's like a Target, a Sears, a Neiman Marcus, somebody like that. Maybe you get a regular credit card or a traditional credit card, some of those people that you see advertised on TV. If you actually have signed up with a place like Credit Karma, they give you options. They give you options in there and recommendations, and they give you a range. And they'll say, hey, you have a 80% chance of actually getting approved by this particular credit card company because of, what their requirements are. Then another thing I told you about was the secured cards. So you can get a secured card, which is nothing like a prepaid card if you walked in a Walmart. I also said a personal loan. You could become a co-signer or ask somebody to co-sign for you. And then also the authorized signer, which I think is a perfect way to establish credit for someone, especially someone that's young, coming out of high school or coming out of college or in college, to be an authorized signer. That's a perfect way to establish some credit for people. And then the last thing is the credit builder loan that you can get at a credit union. So check your local credit unions for that. So before I give you the credit score kiss for today, I want to give a big shout out to one of my frat brothers, one of my long time friends. Man, was in my wedding. And his name is Marvin Bardo. Marvin Bardo is celebrating a huge birthday. He actually celebrated it this week. So I want to make sure that I said happy birthday to Marvin, and I wish you many, many more. So that's a good guy, you guys. So, hey, way to go, man. And so let's get to the credit score kiss. So the credit score kiss, I asked you a question this week. This is what I want you to do for the credit score kiss this week, and that's keep it smart and simple. Can't get any simpler than this. I want you to email me. Email me at 800creditscoreman@gmail.com. Just email me your questions. If you have questions at all, it may not even be for you. Just email me about credit and how you want to establish credit, or you want to know some questions about establishing credit. Email me this week, 800creditscoreman@gmail.com. If you do that, I'd really appreciate it, and then I'll get to all of those questions. And the reason I'm asking you guys to do that this time, because it may not be your question. You may be able to help somebody else out that may be struggling or have a question, shy, don't know what to do. So email me your questions so I can answer them, and I may bank them, and you may become an actual part of the show with the question of the day. And I also want you to come back next week. Come back next week for an announcement and a special offer at the end of the show. And this is why you need to come back at 1:30 Central Standard Time next week, because of this particular thing right here, the